right, here's the problem. The problem the Democrats have is they sat passively and allowed the president to declare war and sanctioned that declaration with the weakest of all possible evidence. Turned out to be no evidence at all. But the Democrats, afraid of their own shadow and to go back home and experience people accusing them of not supporting the war on terror, just went along with whatever the president wanted to do. And the basis for going into Iraq, of course, has been debated and revealed and discussed. But everybody, I think, agrees there was no basis to go into Iraq. As the president prepared to lay out his new strategy on Iraq in a primetime televised address tonight, the GAO audit said his previous plan for victory in Iraq contained serious flaws. This is the Government Accounting Office. If the president would just say, we have made terrible mistakes in Iraq. We have no good plan to go forward. But this is the best we can do. Let's try it and let's see what happens. Of course, the President of the United States has to exude confidence and have a demeanor of assuredness and confidence and et cetera, et cetera. So maybe he can't say that. But that would be the truth. That would be the truth. We've gotten ourselves into a terrible situation. And until we talk about it openly and take off our Bush-Cheney stickers and our rah-rah, he's the president, right or wrong, I'll follow him wherever he goes, we ought to start asking hard questions. It costs a great deal of money to prosecute this war, but the oil of the Iraqi people belongs to the Iraqi people. It is their wealth. It'll be used for their benefit. So we did not do it all for oil, said Colin Powell then. Then. Now is now. If the Democrats get elected, what's going to happen? Well, what was going to happen, Pat Dobson and the rest of you clowns, was that the Democrats were going to stop it. Okay, they were going to stop all the corruption, at least take a shot at it, and bring all of the backroom nastiness, most of it, hopefully, into the light. You know, when they had these joint committees between the House and the Senate, that's when they did all the dirty work, and that wasn't open to the public. The House voted Friday to pull the shadowy tradition of congressional earmarking into the daylight, requiring lawmakers to attach their names to the pet items they slip into spending or tax bills and certify that they have no financial interest in the provisions. Now, isn't that shocking? Isn't that appalling to the Republicans? That you mean they have to disclose the fact that they have a financial interest in what the United States Congress is appropriating and Bush is signing, and we're writing checks as taxpayers giving it to them, and that they have to disclose that? Isn't that terrible? The Republicans are just shocked at this kind of congressional oversight, unnecessary, questioning morality and the legalities of this. So who would have the audacity to do that? Well, the Democrats have done it, and of course we don't hear anything but whimpering now from the Republicans, just a gentle whimper about how they're not happy about whatever they're not happy about. But you would think that evangelical right Republicans would have the decency to say this is an honorable thing to do. We're cleaning up. The country is cleaning up the corruption that the Republicans have handed to us for the last 6 years. Tonight, President Bush is expected to adopt the McCain Doctrine and announce his plan to send up to 20,000 more troops to Iraq. I don't know what's happened to John McCain. I truly do not know what's happened to him. He makes Kerry look like an anti-flip-flopper. I mean, McCain has flipped and flopped and flipped and flopped, and no one really knows what he's going to say till the next week when he decides to say it. Families earning more than $1 million a year saw their federal tax rates drop more sharply than any group in the country as a result of President Bush's tax cuts, according to a new congressional study. A study by the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office also shows that the tax rates for middle-income earners edged up in 2004, the most recent year for which data was available, while rates for people at the very top continued to decline. Based on an exhaustive analysis of tax records and census data, the study reinforced the sense that while Mr. Bush's tax cuts reduced rates for people at At every income level, they offer the biggest benefits by far to people at the very top, especially the top 1% of income earners. Though tax cuts for the rich were bigger than those for other groups, the wealthiest families paid a bigger share of total taxes. That is because their incomes have climbed far more rapidly, and the gap between rich and poor has widened in the last several years, which may ultimately be Bush's most significant legacy, and that is the spread between those that have and those that do not have. Al-Bashir, that if implemented would bring some immediate security and relief to the people of Darfur, as well as provide a clear path forward to long-term peace in the region. The promises from President Bashir in this agreement are encouraging. They include commitments to a 60-day ceasefire with International Peace Summit to be held before March 15, 2007, Sudan's cooperation to work with the African Union and the United Nations on the deployment of a hybrid peacekeeping force in Darfur, ensuring zero-tolerance policies for gender-based violence in Darfur, and free access for humanitarian aid workers and journalists in Darfur. Your concerns to the people of Darfur were voiced directly to President Bashir by Governor Richardson and Ambassador Rawson. We believe that today's agreement, this is dated today's date, offers a promising step forward to end this 4-year nightmare for the people of Darfur. I don't know what's happened to John McCain. I truly do not know what's happened to him. He makes Kerry look like an anti-flip-flopper. I mean, McCain has flipped and flopped and flipped and flopped, and no one really knows what he's going to say till the next week when he decides to say it. Very disappointed in McCain. I at one time felt that he might just be the hope of the Republican Party. They got a sad bunch of cards in their deck if they're looking at Rudy Giuliani or John McCain. Advocates for refugees add that people who were forced to aid terrorist fighters at gunpoint could be labeled as supporters and turned away. Such cases include a nurse who was abducted and told to treat a guerrilla fighter in Colombia, and a woman in Liberia who said her father was killed and she was raped and forced to stand by as rebels occupied her home for several days. This is indefensible, said Michael Horowitz, a fellow at the conservative Hudson Institute and a former lawyer in the Reagan administration. It is causing heroes who fought for the United States to be afraid of being deported. It's outrageous, said Barrett Duke, Vice President of Public Policy for the Southern Baptist Convention's Ethics and Religious Liberty Commission. I think it's essentially a reaction of fear to the current terrorist danger. The language and the laws, he added, is a knee-jerk reaction. Amen, amen, amen. And how pleasant to see these conservative groups joining with moderates and liberals, saying it's a level of nuttiness here that is truly indefensible.